All right. Thank you for sitting down to speak with me today.
Oh, pleasure is all mine.
So, why don't, before I get started, you give a little introduction of yourself, tell people who you are, and just a little bit about your background.
Well, my name is Sanjog All. I am an entrepreneur and a family man, someone who enjoys good times in life, and at the same time do some work where I can create some impact.
Awesome. So, I have had a chance to, I was lucky enough to get a little copy of your book. I've read it a little bit. It's interesting. I like it. I like these types of books where, you kind of help people to figure it out on their own.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
why don't you tell me a little bit more about what you do and what inspired you to sort of write this book?
Well, so I came to this country, which is United States, in 1995,
Mhm.
and always had the background. Actually, I got educated in technology and got my formal degree and then started working as a software developer and eventually thought United States is a land of dreams and opportunities, so might as well go and build my career and my future. So I came here and then I very quickly thought it will be good for me to do business versus being an employee because I felt I will be able to spread my wings much better, and that's where it started. So I started my consulting firm. Then in 2003, I started my media company. And over time, I built both of those companies to wherever they are. Like I'm happy with where they are. And of course, we can always do better. And then in the process, you pay a price sometimes, which we should not be paying, but that's what I thought, that success comes at a price. So I started paying the price, and that led me to put business up front and that as a focus and that success as a focus, and the family started taking a back seat, or at some point they were not even in that vehicle that I was driving,
Mhm.
and that soon started coming back haunting me. My daughter, she forgot to include my picture in the family drawing when she was 3 years old. Then my son, and I've actually put all of those things in the book itself.
Yeah.
And my son, he locked me out in the garage. My wife, she's the most caring person I know, but she started, drifting away from me. So somewhere I got this trigger. And of course, my daughter not drawing me as part of the family was a big jolt, and that made me think. So while the business, what focus it requires, what the time commitment it requires, I kept giving, but my approach to how I did everything every day, how I started my day, to how I started looking at what's coming my way and what I should be focusing on and how much time I should spend on business versus on family. And when I'm with family, can I be with them versus sticking with the phone? You see what I mean? You could always be preoccupied. I started working on those. And then, as part of this transformation, which I was trying to do, I felt, what is allowing me to do it? How am I enabling myself to do it? And I started reverse engineering it. Like I'm an engineer by trade, right? So we love to take a problem and we say, whoops, oh, I solved it. So how did I do it? So I look backwards, and then you try to figure out, what did I try to fix in myself which made me look at things differently and be able to come up with a solution which was acceptable to all parties involved. And I was still able to make progress and be able to get my family back. And then all of this finding was in a mushy state. When I started writing the book, I wrote for 12 months the book. And I was building it in different forms to say, how do I put these concepts out in front of people? And then the next 18 months were spent in simplifying, and it is, I call it, by God's grace, it converted into a shape appeared of a tricycle.
Mhm.
And if you were to read the full book, I'm not sure if you read it, you will see the different parts of the tricycle resemble the different attitudes, attributes, and actions of a human, which they have within themselves. They really don't have to go out looking anywhere. They started resembling different parts of the tricycle, and also there was a connection among them. So the end result was a very visual framework which you could look at every morning and every evening and just ask yourself, how's my tricycle? It will immediately pop up the area which you need to work on. And then what you have to work on is also mentioned in the book. So that's why it is a how to stop racing through life and start enjoying the ride, not a sermon that, okay, go ahead and stop racing through life and start enjoying the ride. And that framework is what I use to coach people. I utilize that in terms of how I run my businesses. All people within my company, at least most of them, not because the boss ordered them to read the book, they read the book and they felt good about it, and that's bringing about changes in them. And then I coach people outside. So I coach, I consult, I speak publicly, I travel globally, I moderate events. I'm going to be also speaking on this subject more. And then then after writing the book, it wasn't enough, right? It's a good book. Millions of books are on Amazon and other places. That's not enough. We have to bring about change. So what we decided is we are going to make this a movement which is going to allow the people in community and corporations to get value out of this, learn about this framework, adopt it, internalize it, utilize in their lives, and then evangelize it. So people, you have a friend in your community who is struggling, who's got a broken family. I hope that's not the case, but if there's someone struggling, that person could get help from you if you had internalized it and if you were living. So imagine if you could have corporations who had people who had success, satisfaction, and smiles all combined. And then you have people in community who also have success, satisfaction, and smiles. Guess what's going to happen? Fewer burnout, lesser burnout, better communities, better, happier workers, and in result, better businesses, better government. You tell me an area which will not heal itself when we help an individual, one individual at a time, heal inside out.
Right.
So this is my lifetime project. While my media company and my consulting firm will keep going till I can work on it, but this Tricycle Way as a movement is going to happen till my last breath. So that's my commitment to it.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. It's all about like kind of striking the balance between all aspects of your life, which a lot of people
Exactly.
can't
People
figure out.
people struggle. People
Mhm.
struggle, and this is just a way for them to get some structure to the madness, if you will.
Right. Cool. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about your family? Maybe people can relate to that. Did you have, were you married young? Did you have kids around that time? Was it around the same time that you were trying to do all this business stuff, or was there a clear one before the other?
So I got married at the age of 28.
Mm-hmm.
I had my first child when I was 30,
Mm-hmm.
30, 31. And I had already started sowing the seeds of business.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I lost my job when my son was just 4 years old. And I announced to my wife that I'm not going back to another job. I'm going to start my business because there's too much politics. I did not like what happened there. And I'm a straight shooter. I didn't like what was going on. I could not really maximize my potential. So I said, what's the better way? Might as well start something on my own. And
Right.
that's triggered it. So as my son was only 4 months old and I don't have a job, my severance would run 6 or 8 weeks. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine the pressure at home. And plus, I announced that I'm not going to join another company as an employee.
Right.
But we went through it. My wife was very supportive. I built it. But then I got way too consumed in building the business. And my daughter was born 4.5 years later, like between my son and my daughter. They are 4.5 years apart. And when you start your business, you're passionate. When you see some success, then you become double passionate because you want to take it to the next level. You
Right.
don't ever think that there is a place for other people or other things in life as well. You become so zoned, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what happened there.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people can definitely relate to that. Well, on that note, who would you say that this book is for? Like, it's somebody who's single, just getting started in the workforce. Would it be just as valuable to them? Is it only entrepreneurs? Is it only people with families? Like, who would you say it's for?
So, students
Mm-hmm.
who are getting started, because somehow the world teaches them that there's a dog eat dog world. First of all, they have a perception that they have to be themselves. People are not nice enough. I have enough stories to tell you where students in a college say, I do not go and seek out help from others because I don't feel anyone is going to be there to help me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there are many other things that they carry. So those people need to really start learning that they can build a better life and career, which can simultaneously exist by doing some meaningful work and by being truly themselves versus trying to fake.
Right.
So if you take between 25 and 45 years old, typically
Mm-hmm.
students, they kind of graduate, right? You could start early, 18 to 20, but 2025, I would say around 25 years of age is when your workforce related entry is what happens, right? You get started. And then you say, oh, I got to buy a car, I've got to have this thing, and I have to run in a race. And then from that point, we somehow wear blinders and we keep going until we turn 40, which I see many times. All of us, when we turn 40, we turn philosophy, and we try to say, oh, I saw what was happening, I thought I'm going to conquer the world, but the world is bigger, the life is bigger than what I'm doing. So then people come back. But you know what, most of the damage that can happen will happen during that 25 to 45 years of age, because
Mm-hmm.
that's the time you're building your character truly, and you're building your family, you're building your career. Everything happens. So that's I would say the core population. 25 to 45 is what it was written for. But then guess what? I had a 60 years old executive, very senior from a very large company. He, after reading it, and he reflected and he came back, you know what? He says, there are so many things in this which I could use today. And I wish I had read or you'd written this book like 20 years ago when I was in that zone, if you will.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. Like I found myself connecting with some of the things. Like I said, I haven't read the entire thing, but what I did read, it's like, well, I can see why people get a lot of value out of this.
So I'll tell you, I was at a TED pitch competition. It was not a TED talk yet, but it was a pitch here in Chicago. And after I gave that 2.5 minute pitch, a guy literally came and almost hugged me. He was like 20, 22 years of age, and he had just started working. And he said, my siblings, my parents, my girlfriend, all were telling me, why are you killing yourself about this work? And his response was, if I don't, who will? And I don't have the time for all this lovey-dovey stuff. I have to go make something. And then the way I had shared my pitch was I told the successes first. And then I said, did I tell you that I also almost lost my family in the process? And that gave him a wake-up call.
Right.
And he agreed. He says, what I heard from you is kind of revalidating what my parents and everybody around me who are near and dear ones telling to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that I cannot simply chase success because it's nothing else but a milestone. One milestone finished, another one will come. There
Mm-hmm.
is never an end to it, but in between the two milestones, what will you do? Would you go nuts or try to chase something and be all depressed or have broken families? That's
Right.
what's happening in the community, in business world every day.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we can make an impact.
Right. Very cool. Yeah. Um, how well do you think, like in your everyday life, have you struck the balance that you speak about? Is it still a challenge every day? Like you have to remind yourself, okay, this is what I need to do, or does it eventually just be like second nature? You don't even have to think about it.
Well, business is always very unpredictable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But certain things I've been able to do is that I don't put an alarm anymore. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
Very seldom if somebody from Europe or from other part of the Singapore is calling me, I'm sitting in the United States, they want to get up at 6 a.m. Otherwise, I try to sleep early so that I can wake up early, but without an alarm, let the body wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And then try to keep calls at around 9 o'clock or starting 9 o'clock so that between then and when I wake up, I'm able to have tea with my wife. And if there is a way for me to be able to support her in any way I can, I try to. If you ask my wife, she'll say, no, this guy still doesn't do much.
Right.
But uh, but whatever I can do there. And then one thing which has happened is no matter what type of issue that I see, whether in work or personal life, I'm able to pull myself out and say, it's still a movie. It's like a movie playing in front of me. So nothing rattles me. And everyone that I'm looking at now as my coworkers or my, people who report to me or my customers, the difference is I don't want to get anything from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I try to see if I can be a resource to them. How can I be a giver?
Right.
And if when I've done this, it's so interesting that when you try to give, you get the most, or in fact, you don't get, you receive. So you
Mm.
cannot get anything from anyone. You can only receive from people when you give. So you can only give in this life.
Right.
So it's a very simple but a very powerful area because if you try to go and try to get something, that's when you try to play tricks and you try to fake things, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very authentic way of living.
Right. It's intriguing. I like that. Yeah. Giving. Mm-hmm. Cool. So, kind of on that same note, what, like, just for people kind of figuring out their own thing, what does your average day look like? Like, not a really good day, not a bad day. What's like the average day?
So I will start my typical day, say around 7-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We'll have my regular breakfast or tea or whatever. Get started with people, and I'll go work out 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I do. I'll go for 30 to 45-minute walk, no matter what comes, inside the home or outside. I'll do that, and there will be calls, and there will be meetings. I will go out,
Mm-hmm.
and at some point around 6:30, top 7, I'll be done. And when I'm done, I'm truly done.
Yeah.
I do not carry till wee hours of the night, or if I'm going to check my phone, that might be my Facebook, but not my emails.
Right.
Right? So the fun time begins,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a big, I like to watch videos of people making food,
Yes.
cooking shows and other things. And then my family sometimes says, how many times have you cooked versus you watching people make food? But
Yeah.
that's what I like to do. And then my wife is a fabulous cook,
Mm-hmm.
and then she's a health coach at the same time.
Oh.
So there's a healthy regimen
Mm-hmm.
at home, so that helps. But otherwise, work-wise,
Mm-hmm.
I find with me investing in my customers and trying to do things right for people, we don't have to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Things just happen. So when I'm going to have a call with a client, even after this, the interview that we'll do, I have a call. It's about education. So
Mm-hmm.
when you are not there with any anxiety to get anything from anyone, to get another order, and if you can always be yourself and offer them 2 cents of your experience and exposure and wisdom, it is so fulfilling when people say thank you, and it's an earnest thank you. So that's the day. If I get a bunch of thank yous,
Mm-hmm.
it's very rewarding, it's very fulfilling. So people say, how come you keep working even on a Saturday or a Sunday? I always see you in front of a computer, you talk about ideas. I said, it's not even work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking about Tricycle Way. I'm thinking about the next thing we can do to help my audience or help my customers.
Right.
What can I do?
You're like very passionate about it.
Exactly. I mean, why should I ever spend a single moment which is a drag?
Mm-hmm.
So that part is gone and gone for good. If it is a drag, I will just walk away. I will say I'm not working for this half a day, or I'm going to just go watch a movie.
Yes.
But you have to plan for it, you have to work towards it. So I was able to build a lifestyle where I travel a lot for my events that I do. So wherever I am, I can work with my team from whichever part of the world I am.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I want to stop working, I'll say, please block this time.
Yeah.
I'm not available. That's it.
Yeah.
So flexibility is given to the people who work with me, flexibility is given to myself, and we all, I've told them, build your own tricycles, guys, because you are working with us because you want to work with us, not because I'm forcing you, not just because you have to pay bills. So when we within the team members, we are all like this. Then with the customers, we are always giving.
Hmm.
We're having a ball.
Right.
That's the shift, right? Most people, if you ask them, how did the day go? Oh, it could have been better. That's what they say, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was okay.
They always say fantastic.
Hmm.
I say always fantastic. And why not? There's so many good things happening, right?
Right. It's incredible. I know people love to hear about that type of thing. And kind of, again, with that, you mentioned it briefly earlier, but I was going to ask, even just for myself personally, I'm always interested in this stuff. Like, do you follow any type of like special diet? You already said that you like watching videos, you eat good, you're lucky with your wife, and that you work out all the time. It always seems that like the most successful and happiest people do some type of physical activity, whether it's a hobby or working out, and then they eat well at least most of the time. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what you do with that?
Oh, sure. So I'm a foodie, by the way. So if
Hmm.
you give me junk food, I
Me
will
too.
take total pleasure in it. But
Yes.
I had a setback because of my past bad deeds.
Hmm.
I had to get some heart. There was a heart issue. There were some blockages, so I had to get some stents, etc., placed.
Right.
And that was a wake up call, and it runs in the family too. So
Hmm.
it's not that okay, only my bad deeds. Maybe it's part genetics, part my bad deeds. But what it also showed me, or it was kind of a wake up call to say, I'll work out, but if I eat all the greasy food, this, that, and the other, it's not going
Hmm.
to go very far. I would love to eat sugar, but then I'm a diabetic.
Yeah.
How can I take it? Right? I'm on meds. So
Hmm.
medicines are going on, but from my side, my whole family is a reminder. First of all, they keep bugging me to say, don't eat bad food because I
Yeah.
might tempt it once in a while. That's true, but from within, I don't feel like eating a whole lot of greasy food and other things anymore. I
Hmm.
think it's a very I feel peaceful when I eat good healthy food. And
Right.
luckily, in my house, like at our home, my wife is teaching others how to do this, right? So she brings this, and she's a disciplinarian with me too. And
Hmm.
I look up to her to guide me. And slowly, once I get used to that clean food and that
Hmm.
diet, you don't want to eat anything bad. Your body rejects it.
Right.
And that's what's happening now.
Hmm. And then you
Earlier,
just feel
to
better
benefit
too.
from outside, yeah. So your
Yeah.
body is now giving you signals, folks, not the good thing to do. And I think we have reached that point. And if I don't walk for 30 to 45 minutes every day, at least, I feel miserable.
Right.
So I'm at that stage, and you have to get your discipline going for 3 to 6 months before you get there.
Hmm.
And frankly, I have a lot to lose. A great life, a good family. So see what's at stake.
Hmm. That's right. And I've always said it's amazing to me how much we'll trade for like a few seconds of taste and mouthfeel. Like, let's eat this whole pizza, and I'm gonna feel like crap the whole rest of the day. I'm gonna be so sad with myself, and yet we'll still eat that pizza or something like that. So yes, the diet. I just would agree that the diet and the exercise, it's like a foundation, just like good sleep is, especially
Oh
with
yeah,
it.
it's a great source of energy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So besides cooking and the dieting and the gym, like what special things do you do when you're not working? Like, do you find time for hobbies still, like really involved hobbies? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
So that way, I'm a relatively a boring person if you say you're looking for that special hobby for me. So I
Yeah.
like to watch movies,
Hmm.
and I would really put it at the top volume. So my family leaves the house when I want to watch a good movie and the action thrillers, or I'll go to the theaters. So
Yeah.
that's my thing. Or I would listen to podcasts. I mean, I have my own podcast, that's one thing, but that's for the rest of the world. But I like to listen to how things work, or why is they're different. Everyone has an analysis to how the world works, right?
Hmm.
How humans think, etc. So I'm a curious, like you've seen that cartoon, Curious George. So I'm
Yeah.
a curious George. I like to keep digging deeper, and that's what I'd spend. But when it is all about just having fun, to be very frank, give me good food and let me watch a good movie
Hmm.
and allow me to sleep.
And then you'll be happy.
That
Yes.
kind of gets me back into I can conquer the world yet again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I can definitely understand that. Sometimes you're just doing so much and you want to relax. Yeah. Um, Now that we know a little bit more about you and your background, why don't you talk to me? Like, was it difficult to kind of write this book? I know there's a lot of personal things you go into, like a lot of personal examples. Was it kind of, what did it take to sort of like lay that out and like approach it in an honest and open way? Because from what I've seen, you kind of do that.
So if you were to look at the intent behind the book,
Hmm.
that was to help people recognize that they may be on a path to disaster, and to solve it there is no outside person who can help them truly. They have to look within.
Hmm.
And since I coach a lot of people, when I see people have a tendency to somehow find that pill, that magic pill they can pop and things will just fix themselves. Well,
Right.
there's no such pill. And they look outside and they will blame the whole world. But people don't look within. The problem is a lot of people will give them sermons to say, look within, but don't know how. So my intent was that, hey, you got to look within and you have to write kind of a spiritual guide. Interestingly, my editor said that you wrote a memoir almost as a book, but it turned out to be spiritual guide without naming it that.
Hmm.
So my goal was to create a framework. So book is just another way of telling the framework, right? We're going to have online courses and other form. But when I wrote the book at that time, I was trying to find a very simple way for someone to be able to look within and have something which is visual, which as soon as they think about, it's going to pop in their head and they'll be able to do something about it.
Right.
So what could that be? So I started when I reverse engineered, came out with the attributes, built some different weird structures as part of the creation process, and eventually this tricycle shape came up.
Hmm.
That's exactly what ended up happening. But the tough part, if you were to think about this whole thing, I kept writing with stream of consciousness, right? That's how you write a book.
Right.
I put all the concepts back, but then how to make it easy for people to relate to was nerve-wracking.
Hmm.
And interestingly, everybody used to tell me I'm a complex thinker.
Yeah.
And that actually allowed me, I do not know what was God's plan there, but
Hmm.
that complex thinking allowed me to actually deconstruct and still reconstruct it into something which people can use.
Hmm.
So, talking about the soul bearing stories, the reason I shared those, because how can I impact change in others if I were to not share the things that I went through and what I did to, redeem myself or to fix
Hmm.
myself. And it's not a recipe I'm giving. I'm sharing that these are the things you have to work at. Your roadmap may be a different, but these are the things you have to work on.
Hmm.
Look, and
Right.
with that, when you have that as an intent, and if I messed up, and if I have to take the high road, I have to accept them, right?
Hmm.
So I just said, okay, if I messed up and I want people to learn from it, how else can I make them learn from it if I don't write them as is? Some people will say, oh my God, it takes so much courage. But to
Mm.
me, it is, my focus is on impact. And if that is the route for me to get people moved and create the impact, then there is no price I'm paying here, to be very frank.
Right.
People
That's.
get to know the real me. And if
Mhm.
I messed up, everybody's messed up. If you hide it, you're not getting any better by hiding it.
Right. By pretending. Mhm.
Exactly. So remove faking from your life, and that's why authenticity is the frame of the tricycle, the very core part, and that's where everyone has to start. So I'm living it. Even writing the book made me live the authenticity, right? So that's why I wrote what I wrote.
Yes. Yeah, that really shines through when you're reading it. At least the parts that I've been able to read. Um, just like a quick tip for people after now that we've discussed all this, what without giving too much of your book away, obviously, but like what easy couple of steps should people take if they find their life out of balance? Like what's just like a quick first baby step sort of thing that you could give? You're already working too hard, you said. You're out of
Yes.
balance. You're already not spending enough time in certain areas. So what is the first step that you take?
So first is to take account for what's going on with you. So life in the day of John Smith. Suppose
Mhm.
John Smith is the person who's going through craziness,
Mhm.
right? Write down what you're doing and what is happening as a result.
Mhm.
So if a person doesn't see that what they are doing and they're doing more of, if it is not leading them somewhere, then they will automatically start doing less of it,
Right.
right? Because a lot of people will burn the midnight oil and they don't get the outcome, but they keep doing it thinking that I should be foolishly hopeful. Second, who are they kidding?
Mhm.
A lot of people will either keep working hard but without a direction. They chase opportunities, something shiny.
Mhm.
And everything that they do is they measure in terms of material success. That's what driving them, right?
Right.
People don't think about happiness because the word happiness is elusive. And if you were to take happiness and deconstruct it, it is actually success, satisfaction, and smiles.
Mhm.
So if you want to be happy, John Smith, write down the number of times you smiled today. Amount of time, a percentage of time you really felt peace. And truly, are you successful only in material terms, if at all? But what about other areas? So you got work, you
Mhm.
got home, you got community, and you got self. These are the four dimensions of a person.
Mhm.
You become successful and feed your tummy and your immediate family. Even an animal does that.
Mhm.
But guess what, John Smith? You are a human.
Right. Yeah.
What kind of impact are you creating? If you are not creating an impact, then you're not being a human, the basic human who has been given the gifts.
Mm.
So, what do you want? So, the question is, what do you want?
Yeah.
If you write it down and don't just keep create a mushiness in your head, write down what do you want?
Mhm.
Are you getting it? Do you really need to work that hard to get it?
Mm. That's a
And
good question. Yeah.
right? And then if you every day don't learn anything, you will feel stagnated no matter how much money you make.
Mhm.
So ask your question at the end of the day, what did I learn today?
Mhm.
And make sure that you force yourself to right answer to that question at the end of the day. You know, like before you go to bed, you're going to write, what did I learn today?
Yeah.
And that will make you start thinking everything that you do differently. Because
Mhm.
you know you're obligated to write something, right?
Yeah. I like that. It's just asking yourself a couple of questions. taking
Exactly.
stock of your situation and then just actually materializing it instead of just kind of leaving it in the back of your head.
Yeah, and everything, every thought you have, every confusion you have, either create a whiteboard or you create a notepad, a scratch pad, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Keep putting it on paper, see what happens, and then take some of the material out of it, put it on the next page, and stare at it. Is this really what you want?
Mhm.
What is the blueprint of your life? What should be happening around you, which will give you peace at heart and a smile on your face and the success in the form of success that you're looking for?
Mhm.
You know, if you don't get those things on paper, that's the first step. When I coach people, I tell them take 1 or 2 days to detox. Go watch a movie, eat the food that you want, whatever kind of brings you down from that crazy, unstable state to a stable state. And then isolate yourself for a day. Use a whiteboard, take a notepad, and get this craziness on paper. And
Yeah.
once you've done it, then come to me. And guess what? A lot of people stop coming
Mm.
because they don't even invest in those 1 or 2 days to just detox themselves and
Mm.
1 day of introspection. When somebody is not willing to work on themselves, how on earth can an outsider help them?
Yeah, true.
So answer is within you. If you look at the quote in the very beginning of the book, right? All
Hmm.
the answers in the universe is within you. You just have to look within.
Yeah.
I mean, we are there. I'm as mean. There are many other people,
Hmm.
but it starts with you. If you don't know, well, I could offer help, or other people can offer help. But are you willing to get out the recliner and do something about your life?
Right. Well, that was an incredible answer. I agree with a lot of things you said there. You do kind of break it down. I think a lot of people just even having someone else that can be like, hey, this is what worked for me. This is what kind of works. Then they can just follow that blueprint. Yeah.
Yes, and you build your own blueprint, though.
Hmm. Cool. So this is the Tricycle Way. Where can people find your book? Is there anything you'd like to plug? Your website? You said you have a podcast.
Yeah, so podcast is a different, that's for CIO Talk Network, it's a different media company. But
Mhm.
then Tricycle Way as a book is available on Amazon, it's available on Audible, ebook, paperback, audiobook. So all of those flavors are available, and we have purposely been pulling out, we have not put up the website yet because we are putting out a bunch of online courses,
Mhm.
workbook, planners, journals, anything which will allow you to help adopt the lifestyle that we are proposing, which is the tricycle way. If you do it, what you will get is daily satisfaction, more smiles, and a greater, sweeter, beautiful looking success
Mhm.
that you cannot even imagine possible.
Ah, sounds great. Well, thanks for sitting down and talking with me. And it's great to hear that your message is reading people and that you're helping so many people. And I can't wait to finish the book myself and see what I can do.
Definitely. Anytime. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you.